think I have your number from the Makers Market. Let me see.
Next, press the
Then
stream
we
button.
do, I think we do.
It will flash red, then become solid red.
Yeah, it did. I'll text you just in case.
When the meeting is
you
ended,
lost
please
it.
press the record and stream button on the recorder again. They will go from solid red to blinking to white. So,
Don't lose that instruction.
We made the brave attempt.
That was me.
That's a flag that I need to turn it off.
okay.
I guess we should probably start with Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So what I'd like to do tonight, our agenda is really to finish the review of this if we can. And what I've brought for you is kind of the latest version, which has a few comments that I think Barry and Judy were able to get to me in between the meetings, and they're highlighted in yellow. And then I know the mayor also had a couple of comments as well that we can talk about, and then we have the last section to plow our way through, and any other comments or questions. So, maybe the thing to do is, why don't we take the mayor's comments? They're on page 12 and 14. One was in the discussion of the traditional neighborhood design overlay, and if I have this right, to make sure that there is reference to neighborhood scale in the development. Did I capture that right?
Define that, please.
Well, I think what I see in communities south of us are people buying older homes, tearing them down,
I got it.
and building much larger houses, yeah. I mean, a good example
We have a couple examples.
in Fairview.
We
yeah.
talked about that, yeah.
We have that on Hawthorne.
Oh, true.
And the counter to that is, at some point, it tips. So the outliers become the older,
Right.
smaller residences.
Right.
And so unless we decide to legislate against allowing those larger homes to be built, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I understand, and I agree, neighborhoods change. I just am wondering if there's a balance that can be found. It seems that, especially in some of, well, definitely in the historic neighborhoods, that's a no-brainer. So I don't know, I understand what you're saying, Barry, but does it, I mean, when you have a neighborhood of 30 homes, how long does that tipping point take? And what effect does it have on the rest of the neighborhood, too?
And the diversity of housing stock that we'd want to achieve.
Right.
Yeah, there's an affordability impact,
Mhm.
for sure.
But how would you control that other than with the setback rules?
I think the setback is pretty important.
Floor area
But you can
ratio.
do a lot in the existing footprint of an existing house and turn it into something that's much larger, seemingly much more imposing on the property itself.
There are examples of that as well.
Yeah, like, for example,
Right on Fairview,
right,
they're renovating, they've added an addition onto one of the houses, in addition to the two that were knocked down and built a new house.
yeah. And also in your neighborhood, on the corner
Yep.
of Park,
Small cottage.
right. I mean,
Cape Cod.
they're adding to it, but it's not enlarging it to a place that's like overwhelming for the site, it seems.
I mean, they're putting a pretty long extension on that.
Yeah.
It may seem less overwhelming because they're not going vertical.
That's right, yeah.
You know, a lot of the things that I've seen elsewhere, it's not just, you know, it's an old 50s Cape Cod or ranch, and it's turned into, you know, probably 3,200 square feet, you know, within the allowed setbacks. And, you know, from the appearance, it seems as though, you know, over maybe the last 10 or 15 years, it's kind of flipped to the point where the smaller, older homes that are still occupied probably by people who moved in the 60s or 70s are no longer the predominant housing type in that neighborhood. But I think this should speak to making sure that we have diversity in the housing. I mean, that really needs, I think, to be our focus. We want to maintain a diverse community and have housing opportunities, you know, for more people at different economic levels.
But again, what's the policy recommendation that helps achieve that?
Well, I mean.
I mean, could it be that there's a percentage of increase of square footage that limits it? I mean, I don't know.
For replacement.
For replacement,
Specifically for
yeah.
a replacement dwelling.
Is that form-based code? Is that where you bring that back?
Yeah, that's, I mean, you know, the missing middle approach is an attempt to provide diverse housing types that still nonetheless maintain the character of the existing built environment. That's the intent of it.
Right.
And there's, you know, it's a balancing act, because, you know, a lot of the existing housing stock needs to be sort of modernized, but it should do it in a way that's compatible with the existing character.
A good example is right here on Wheeler. There's, you know, been multiple homes, one after the other, that have been revamped, modernized, you know, kind of cleaned up, made more attractive, younger owners, and I think we see that throughout many of the neighborhoods in the village. Cottage Street is a good example as well. And on one level, you know, those owners really love the neighborhood, and that's why they moved there. And they don't want to alter it dramatically. So.
Then there's people who just have to have bigger and better of everything.
Yeah, one of the, I don't know that this solves the problem, but on page 12, the third recommended action under goal Q1, to make it just a little change in the first sentence where it says encourage the use of design standards as design guidelines, and then to say to ensure new development in the residential and commercial zones remain in character with the existing built environment. I don't know that, you know, again, it basically, it kind of punts on the question of how do you strike the balance, but it says you should probably strike a balance to maintain the character. So I don't know whether, I mean, ultimately, that's gonna be a series of discrete decisions made over time about how that plays out
Yeah.
in the context of the design guidelines that are in place at the time.
Well, living in a neighborhood where all the homes were built in the late 40s or early 50s, you know, what everyone is doing is either, I mean, gutting it to modernize it, because that, as you said, you know, even us, I mean, I know we went through a major renovation maybe in the early 2000s, and at some point you put a new kitchen in, or you tear it down and build something new, and of course, they built two big homes on Mr. Masker's property down there in the gully. That's one big one. And then the neighborhood on the corner, they knocked their house down and built a two-level house. So and then others are just adding on. But it's, I guess it's the cost of renovation versus the cost of removal and building a new one, and that's what people are, I think, analyzing right now.
Mhm.
But it's a great neighborhood, and that's why everybody wants to be there, so. From,
That two-story house, that's on 2 lots, though, isn't it? Was it?
No.
Oh, it was just 1 lot,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, right on the corner there.
But in part, I think it's driven by people not finding the size and the scale of what they want and being able to find something that doesn't meet that but is convertible to that.
Mhm.
And so the push is gonna end up being, how do we keep, if those are lost, how do we replace them with more affordable units that have been removed from the housing stock because they've been upsized and upscaled?
And more, I find people are coming to me saying, do you know any, retired couples? Do you know any small houses in the village? I would love to live in the village, but everything's too big. And it's on multiple stories, because there are very few ranches. And you can't find them, they don't stay on the market long enough.
So I don't know that we can provide a definitive statement about this. Again, just that idea of trying to ensure that the development is compatible or in character with the existing built environment. But
And I think it can't be too specific. This is a comprehensive plan, but that's a guideline to look at the zoning and to kind of develop its context, to the built environment that exists. So, I mean, that's,
Design changes over time,
yeah.
that's, that's what we're seeing.
Mhm.
Well, ultimately, it's the way it's interpreted.
Right.
And those same words could be interpreted in either direction. But, you can only do so much. And then you have to leave it to the people that are in the decision-making positions.
Yeah. I mean, my sense is, I think there's pretty clear, I think so far the draft communicates the sense of this reasonably well about sort of what is acceptable and being encouraged versus what isn't. But, it's about this, in particular, this is a balancing act, because you don't want, in the name of preservation, to stop the revitalization of properties, that's, but you don't want that revitalization to destroy the character that makes the place appealing in the first place.
Right. And you want to maintain a mix, the diversity.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Bergen County, what's happened there, is that it's all become higher end housing, even in the most middle-class neighborhoods.
You could argue, though, that even today here, the smaller houses, the ranches and whatnot have become higher end, right? Because they're not necessarily affordable if they're 500,000.
That's true.
That's true. That's
It's
what
very-
my little ranch community is selling for at this point,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which is unbelievable.
yeah. It's the price of success.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
mean,
being a
it's
place that people want to come and live.
Right?
Yeah.
And then maximized by a pandemic.
Yeah,
Well, the good news is those prices aren't gonna last over the next 6 months or so. I guess that's good news. But let's just, in terms of going back to the discussion about scale and so on. Do we want to say something more than what I had suggested, sort of consistency with the existing built environment? Is there something else?
Which I think maybe what you do is you state examples. For example, scale, materials, the house is built of
Diversity of housing stock?
in that neighborhood.
Because that's, I think that was something that we talked about wanting to, even though we don't have the solution for that necessarily here, but referencing that.
And perhaps ARB review and all of that to really get their hands into it. If something is to be redeveloped, because I know we did the deed restrictions on Colonial.
Yep.
And that kind of worked and didn't work at the same time,
I think it actually worked.
For the most part,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's been some issues,
Yeah.
obviously, on a couple of different projects
Yeah.
there. And, if everybody's not on the same page, I guess to, watch over it, which it can easily be missed,
Yeah.
especially if a lot of it's going on, if it's a busy building time. It makes it difficult to hold those standards, So some kind of, something that is a trigger when somebody's doing that, that at least brings it to the ARB's attention. So at least if it's built bigger, it's built, within the, same
Aesthetics.
aesthetics
Aesthetics.
of the neighborhood,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in fact, this discussion probably should go into the first recommended action, which is about simplifying and making, the comprehensive design standards and guidelines. And the discussion there about ensuring that the developments is consistent in terms of scale, materials, and maintaining a diversity of housing
And that's where
choices.
you can use good examples.
Well, and I was going to ask that actually. Do we need that recommended action, or is that a such as opportunity under the first one?
The recommendation about the consistent character?
No. Well, you have the recommended action above, which is the simplified system of design and standard guidelines, and then recommended action 3 is encourage the use of the design standards from the traditional neighborhood design overlay district, and we're quibbling over that one.
Yeah.
But what the need that is met by what we're talking about is up here. So is this really a such as?
Yeah, the third one is such as of number 1.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be cast as that. Just say, for example, the TND design standards could be used as guidelines for the remainder of the village.
Yeah, that's an example of using a comprehensive and simplified system.
Okay, so that becomes a such as under the first one, and in that first one is also a discussion of the need to ensure compatibility with the existing built environment in terms of scale, materials, maintaining the diversity of housing choices.
Yeah. So.
Good.
Good.
A question I had about this one is, does this need like a statement underneath it?
About the subsidized senior housing.
And that's only applicable to the subsidized senior housing?
Yeah, the idea there was as that housing becomes available for other uses, to be able to kind of refit it or reposition it. But I don't know, Barry and I have talked about this a couple times. I don't know exactly other than the sentence that's there, I don't know what else we could add.
Well, what you just said
Right.
as an explanation.
Okay.
Yeah, because it says status, but really I guess what you mean is like use and occupancy.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Mayor.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's okay. Have a seat.
May I sit?
Yes, oh, please do.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'll make that change as well. Oh, and then on page 14, to emphasize,
Well, Carly and I actually kind of went through it, and that's the,
their recommended action about the outreach,
yes.
that's highlighted in yellow for those of you that have the
Right.
most recent version.
So what did,
We were suggesting that maybe we say should develop a mechanism to foster regular outreach to underrepresented communities in the village. And then, this is intended to blah, blah, blah. At the time of this plan's development, such communities are, because I think it's also something we should monitor, because, you know, like, we may find that youth are not represented at some times, and seniors are not represented at other times, you know. We may do, hopefully, we do such a good job that,
Right.
you know, but we don't wanna, like, exclude others. So that's what we were kind of thinking, was.
Did you codify that? Is that written out?
Mhm.
Can you send that to me then? That's
Yeah,
great.
so it basically says, should foster a mechanism or blah, 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 regular outreach to underrepresented communities in the village. This is intended to do X, to maintain awareness of what perspective, that doesn't look right, actually. I didn't spell that correctly. But to maintain awareness of what perspectives are underrepresented and issues facing those communities. At the time of this plan's development, such communities include, among others, members of the BIPOC community, and then the bracketed explanations, and the LGBTQ community in the
Okay.
bracketed explanations, and then everything else is the same.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
so if you could email that to me.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And then also on 14, the idea of mixed use being encouraged in the first recommended action. In the second, well, actually, it's the third sentence. It says increasingly these uses are developed as part of mixed-use developments with primary use on the first floor and residential or office use in the upper floors. And I just think of adding, and this should be encouraged as a way of indicating that's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, can we just go back to it, because I was a little confused. I mean, I sent this in, I just sent everything in, put it all on the kitchen table there, so you're gonna.
Read it? Okay, yeah, let me just read it together, because I messed that up. The village should develop a mechanism to foster regular outreach to underrepresented communities in the village. This is intended to enable village government to maintain awareness of what perspectives are underrepresented and issues facing those communities. At the time of this plan's development, such communities include, among others, members of the BIPOC community, Black, Latino, Asian American, and LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, intersection, and asexual. And in turn, to make members of those communities, and everything else is the same.
Okay, I mean, you could just list it, like, that's the Black Indigenous, that's how
Oh, yes,
you
yeah.
have it, yeah. Yeah, I thought it'd be good to kind of just, be very clear with that.
Mhm.
And then the rest were just, I don't know where that fits in, creating social justice initiatives, all of that is just throwing
didn't-
everything out.
no, I thought everything
Yeah,
else was
we didn't
fine.
suggest any changes to the
Yeah.
rest of it.
Just
Yeah.
something to follow up with.
Yeah. I thought it was really good.
That's good. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then I thought we would go through the last section, which was I believe the connectivity recommendations, which we hadn't gotten through last time. And also, after that, if there are other things that need to be discussed. The one thing that's new in the draft that I brought with me and sent to you a couple days ago is their examples of the wayfinding, which I took from Montpelier, Vermont. And there's an illustration of the existing wayfinding signs in the village here in Alta's recommendations, which is that's a separate document, so I think we're covered. So that being said, let's go through the connectivity, if there are any reactions, thoughts, revisions, recommendations.
Just really quick, all of the yellow was new. This was really good. This is what you submitted?
I do.
Yeah, thank you.
I highlighted it.
Good job.
Yeah.
That means he's gonna use it again.
That's right. So let's just, page 18 to start. And on to page 19.
The phrase parking situation sort of stood out to me as being not very clear.
Yeah, I agree, yeah,
Alright.
I noted that too.
And let's, where is that
Page
specific?
18, goal C1, first recommended action, 3 lines down. Complete study of the existing parking situation.
Parking needs and availability
Yeah, capacity and
instead.
demand,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or
Okay,
lack thereof.
okay,
Yeah, situation sounds a little
yeah.
Situational.
situational, yeah.
Good. Page 19. And that takes us to goal C2, streetscape improvements. And again, for the most part, these are from the Alta recommendations.
Mhm.
And they're just kind of restated here.
Just a quick note about the parking shuttle. Someone had recommended I can't remember the name of the little bus that takes people around.
The
Dial-a-bus?
dial-a-bus.
Dial-a-bus.
But then there's also the kind of transit system, the work, I don't know what it's called actually, but it.
NJ Transit?
No, no. I mean, it goes
It's
to Greenwood
courtesy
Lake,
shuttle?
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
It's a courtesy.
It's a
Yeah.
town, it's funded through the tip somehow or another.
Yeah.
But it's a town service.
So,
The courtesy
We are one
bus.
of the only in the county that has it, and we're used as an example throughout the county because of that.
yeah, and I believe other municipalities are trying to
They are.
match it. But I was thinking in terms of that you have Dial-a-Bus, we do have a shuttle that the village pays for on the weekends that takes people to St. Stephen's and also to ShopRite. Yet I was thinking that's okay, but it would be even better if there was something a little bit more regular in the village that actually really circulated in the village that people could count on, or that, that there were regular bus stops. And so I think that's a discussion with the town, not that the village wants to all of a sudden, have a bus in a garage, but if we can talk to the town and even maybe contract to them, for an extra service that specifically, goes to our senior centers, brings them downtown or brings them to the park, because there are very specific places that people want to go. And I don't know,
I think it's worth a discussion.
I think it is.
And I think you should also point out that not many people know that the service exists.
That's true.
I didn't know about the town ones that you just
Besides the
mentioned.
dial-a-bus, I had no clue either.
I
Well-
don't think it's publicized, and part of it, I think, is because it's limited by its funding. But if you would discuss contributing to the funding, I think they would be open to it.
Yeah,
There's also a sizable park and ride, like right on the edge of the village.
yeah.
Which I think
County
is,
owned, yeah.
yeah, which I think is an opportunity potentially to get people into the village without burdening, the.
With the vehicles.
Yeah.
Trolley?
It's never full. I mean, I used to use that park and ride when I would commute into the city, and it was never,
Not even close.
not even
Never
close.
full.
So that seems like an opportunity.
It's a perfect opportunity.
It's a
Even
good
half of
place
it
for the
is
shuttle
puts a
bus.
lot of
Shuttle.
cars. You could park a lot of
Yeah.
cars even in half that lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so if that was something that maybe like happened on the week, and NJ Transit stops right there.
That's right.
That's right.
So people could but actually it comes into downtown anyway, but,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. But it's also an opportunity for, let's say,
Wonder how much the
events.
bus would charge to drop people
Yeah.
off from the park and ride into by Burger King. Wonder how much that would cost.
The Dial-A-Bus?
No, the transit bus.
But it
Like,
does.
It does.
I know, but I'm saying how much would they charge?
Oh,
if you got
'cause it's
on
like
at the
4
park and
blocks
ride and got
or-
off
yeah.
at Burger King. I'm wondering how much
14
they would
blocks.
charge.
Mm.
Yeah, would they charge
Yeah.
$14?
There are different fares, because I've taken it a few times, even the local bus. I mean, I've seen people get on there and get off in Greenwood Lake, even as close as Mount Peter.
Well,
They
and
just-
maybe this is
So
I'm
there's
sorry.
definitely, I was just gonna say, there's definitely other fares.
Yeah.
You're not paying to go to New York, just to go to
Okay.
Greenwood Lake.
So
Yeah.
they're used to something like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, if you take a non-express,
Yeah.
you can go to one of these small communities
One of those
along the
little-
way.
Yeah, you can
That's
go
right.
anywhere, really.
Ringwood.
Ringwood or, yeah.
Anywhere they stop.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
we need
Something.
a transit study so that we know what is available and what
Mhm.
isn't available.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And the right way to do that is with the town.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing this as an opportunity to, like a public outreach or awareness opportunity, because it sounds like there are a lot of, mechanism, because people could come from the city, they could park in that park and ride, they could hop on the NJ Transit bus, that's already there. We have the Dial-A-Bus, we have this other thing. Yeah, maybe we just need to maximize.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great that we drive people to ShopRite on Sundays, but it would be great also to drive people from various neighborhoods to the farmer's market.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's not really the way the system is going right now. So I think it has to be reanalyzed.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to parking, we need a better understanding of what transit is.
Yeah, so this recommendation is being morphed into a transit study. And to look at regular scheduled service as well as a parking shuttle for events.
If it's just
Yes.
in the village, we could have like a rickshaw.
Or
Or
a
that
scooter.
cart with
I've
the
always
buses.
wanted that in the village.
Can you hook up the wagon to your scooter?
I could so see it happening.
Oh, boy.
Because it's relatively flat in the village.
I'm okay with it.
Except on your neighborhood.
Then
Yeah.
don't come to me.
Yeah. Won't come to me
My
either.
little scooter can barely get into my neighborhood.
Well, that can be included in the scope of the study as rickshaw service.
Perhaps just include other destinations that are, for example, ShopRite, Price Chopper from there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Yeah.
to link residential areas to shopping areas, residential areas, et cetera, or recreational areas, et cetera.
I know the various organizations at St. Stephen's pay for what we call bus angels, so the bus can come every day to pick people up and drop them off for mass.
Oh, really?
I
And
thought they were volunteers.
that's, pardon?
I'm sorry, I thought they were volunteers, no?
No,
They get paid?
no, well, I know it, I think it's like $100, $200
I guess that.
a month. There is a fee that's paid, and,
Covers their gas at least,
Yeah.
or use.
right,
Yeah.
but it allows those who are interested, Sunday plus weekdays, the 9 o'clock mass. The bus comes every day, drops them off, picks them up. And it's funded by the volunteer organizations like the Knights of Columbus.
Okay, so this is now a recommendation for a transit study in cooperation with the town. And do we want to say possibly New Jersey Transit?
I think you should reach out to the planning department as well, because that's how you get your funding for the
planning.
County,
service.
county planning, yeah, more so than
Yeah.
New Jersey
Town and-
Transit.
Town
New
and
Jersey
county.
Transit
Yeah.
isn't gonna give us any money, but you might get some money through the county planning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be there the TPA, I guess.
And this stuff is expensive.
So we at least could encourage at least find out how much they would charge to encourage it.
Mhm.
Just to find out their schedule, communicate it to residents and tourists, so they know that's an option.
Onward. Streetscape improvement strategies. And so pages 21 through 24, and that takes us to resilience and sustainability.
Will you resend the Alta study?
Sure. Okay, yeah, I can do that. It's also the,
Is it on the website, the village website?
it's on the village website, and you should still be able to get. Let's see if I-
It's not in the packet.
Okay, all right, I can, it should be on the website.
If it's on the website, you don't have
Yeah.
to send it.
Originally, there was gonna be links here too, but these are not links, because I've been,
Because it's printed.
you know,
Maybe just for clarification, I looked up the information on the shuttle bus, and
Can I get that for you?
it's a pretty extensive route with a lot of potential stops, and if you're anywhere along the route, you can wave the bus down, but it starts in Homestead Village, makes about 5 stops in there, then Creekside, Burt Farms, Park Lane Apartments, South Street Red Caboose, Post Office by request, St. Anthony's, Mount Alverno, Devon Woods, Liberty Green, Cherry Street Apartments, CVS parking lot, Aikens, Burger King, Spring Street at McEwen, West Street at Spring, Village Cove, West Street at Division, West Street at Howe, then Burger King again, well, I guess it's a different route, but that base, and then Price Chopper, ShopRite, so that's pretty much, it works its way around the village
It
pretty well.
circulates, yeah.
And then
But it's
just
not
heads out.
advertised.
Just
know.
heads out to,
It also
Nobody
goes
knew.
to,
ShopRite and Price
there's,
Chopper.
one of the shuttles goes through here, through the village, to Crystal Run Medical.
Right, there are 3 other bus routes, and you're right, there's a Wallkill Middletown service, there's a Monroe service, and then there's a Goshen Hatfield Lane Valley View Government Center service.
What is this
And that's on
called?
Friday,
Shuttle.
Monday through
Oh,
Friday.
shuttle.
The shuttle.
Town Shuttle, that's what it's called?
I think it's called the Warwick Shuttle. What did
It
you
says,
look under?
it's called the local shuttle bus here, and you've also got
That's
Dial-A-Bus. So there's the shuttle, the local shuttle bus is the route within the village and then out to ShopRite and Price Chopper.
and that's a town initiative?
Well, it's funded by the feds,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, and even getting on that, or promoting that, if they're already going these routes, that could reduce, like, emissions, it could, it seems like a more if it's already going around,
Yeah,
to encourage people to use it. I'd rather use that than
Be curious to
climbing
know
a
how many
giant
people
tree.
are using it.
Mm.
They
No
record
idea
it,
it
I think
exists.
that,
Yeah, they have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have
Been
to
here 30
get,
years.
secure their funding.
Yeah.
The Dial-A-Bus does a really good job marketing, or maybe just because it's so easy to remember, Dial-A-Bus.
yeah,
And I think it used to be $1 or $2 to get on. I'm not
$1.
sure, right?
The fares for all bus services, regular fare is $2, seniors age 60 plus, disabled riders, Medicare card holders are $1, and children under 4 are free.
So, but this is not the Dial-A-Bus, this is this
It's the local shuttle.
shuttle.
Everything,
Local
It's
shuttle.
everything.
Oh,
Including
including
Dial-A-Bus.
Dial-A-Bus.
Including
yes.
Dial-A-Bus.
I believe
it the
so, that's
same
the way I'm
bus?
reading it.
It's the same thing, or is it different looking? I wonder.
Different what?
Is it a different bus, or is it the actual Dial-A-Bus?
Dial-A-Bus.
I wonder.
Yeah.
It's, the website on the Town of Warwick page references all of the transportation services, and it includes both the Dial-A-Bus and the local shuttle bus and the services to
Do we need to promote that?
The
Yeah,
village should do
yeah.
the same on the village website.
We should.
We could
yeah.
just link to this.
We should.
Yeah, because it's,
Mm-hmm.
For the
And
last text?
and maybe it needs, just like you said, dial-a-bus, you remember.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the shuttle is so abstract, like, okay, where does it go? What
Yeah.
does it mean? When
What
does it
look
stop?
like?
What is, yeah. So maybe that,
Color is it?
maybe there's an identity, a branding issue.
Yeah,
That's,
definitely.
that's part of why I'm confused about it. I've seen these, but I don't have any vision of what it looks like. It's so bland, I guess.
Yeah,
And
the only
I
thing
don't
could
remember
picture-
seeing them
every time I
around in
see
the
it, all I
village.
picture
I've
is
seen them at
dial-a-bus.
Exactly.
I just
Okay.
picture the dial-a-bus.
Well, I see them in the village all the time because
We need to
I'm
put it-
downtown,
Zero.
yeah.
Need to paint it
But,
blue.
I'm gonna
Or
hop on
purple
it
and yellow.
and just see what it's
You,
like.
you
Just-
must.
Just ride it for a couple hours.
Or follow on your scooter.
See who gets there first.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, and so the recommendation will also include then looking at the possibilities for branding and promoting the services.
Okay.
You know, so for example, I don't know, like at we have a camp program. Wouldn't it be great if there was a connection, you know, so the parents didn't have to drive all these kids to camp in the morning or to one of the programs that we do? So how do we do that, I guess, is the question.
But we probably have to create a special schedule, because I'm not sure any of these would
Yeah, because
fit that time-wise.
right, and it would really be from different neighborhoods.
Right.
Because it's not going to be from Burt Farms. It's, it's going to be from your neighborhood or from Homestead Village or your neighborhood, you know, Warwick Meadows.
Nobody
Or,
goes to our neighborhood.
so
We need a bus,
you need a bus, there you go.
We need a bus.
a scooter or anything.
I would take the bus to work. Why not?
Okay,
Okay,
so we've got that. So now onward, there's the recommendations for the goal for the streetscape improvement strategies, starting at page 19 and going to page 23. The rest of the page will be actually 24.
We have been hearing a lot about speeding along McFarland. And that the traffic calming that was designed there isn't working because it's too, you know, it's not windy enough. And so people are just driving straight through the wind.
They do go fast there. I've been surprised.
I wonder, but we could use one of those like little middle piece things to make that not happen anymore. But so that's
we did put a speed monitor there for months, and that did help actually, but that's something we can't do all the time. So, you know,
If you decide to stay within the lines and you go 25 to 30 miles an hour, you can easily, comfortably navigate all of it except maybe the last almost 90-degree left turn.
Right.
You have to slow down a little bit more for that. But
maybe we
it's-
could put little like, you know how they have the little like reflector things in the middle of the road sometimes to keep people in the right lane? That would be probably a low-cost way to address that issue with McFarland.
Low initial cost or low maintenance cost?
Oh, because people tear them, like knocking them over.
Have you seen our crosswalk signs?
Nice experiment.
There was one in the middle of the South Street parking lot the other day.
I believe
I'm like,
it.
how did that get there?
my goodness.
I was like,
But
okay,
was it
move
all
it.
together or one piece standing up?
It was still in one piece, but it wasn't in the road, it was in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Our,
no.
our DPW fondly call them the crash dummies. So,
I'd like to flag Orchard Street also. There's a gentleman that has a speed detector, and he was reporting in how fast people were driving down Orchard Street.
well, you know what's interesting? What these streets, like Orchard Street or South Street Extension, have in common is that they are leading into the village, and they are coming from a higher level. So they're hills. They're actually people are coming down a hill. Locust Street, they're coming down Sleepy Valley, and suddenly they hit the residential area, and they're going already too fast. So that's kind of the problem. I think maybe the problem is to calm them down before
Yeah.
before they get there. So.
But I mean, on South Street Extension, it is.
It
It's
is.
all the way up
Completely.
above Work Meadows, you have a speed limit 25 mile per
I
hour
know.
sign, but they're not.
They're not.
Well,
That in the hills.
25 on Pinecrest. I mean,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
they tear through Pinecrest and around that bend. More than once I've been
Yeah.
pushed into somebody's lawn.
I think another, like maybe an opportunity too on this map would be to identify gateways to the community, because that can provide a physical, like a, you know, like it's like a visual change, and you know, maybe like there's a signaling that I need to do something different. So for example, a gateway on Galloway, you know, where it meets Forester is, you know, if for example we could talk with DOT about doing a roundabout there, that's like a clear gateway, you know, that like you have to slow down for. Maybe there's some other opportunities in some of the other areas where we have these gateways. Like every one of the gateways is really intense from a speed perspective here. Maple
Sure is.
West, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to picture a roundabout at Forester and Galloway. My guess is that that would not do what you think it would. You see people peeling around, coming into town, around that corner where theoretically it's 20 miles an hour, and they're going 45 plus, and they never slow down until they hit the stop sign at McFarland.
Yeah. It's true, interesting and true. I mean,
The cops sit there all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Police
In
officers.
Liberty,
All the
New
time.
York, coming off the thruway, there's a couple of roundabouts. And I think their intention was to slow traffic down, but it doesn't
It doesn't.
at all.
If it like
Just
makes it easy for them
easier
to
for
cut
them
through.
Yeah.
cut, yeah.
Just makes it
Speed
easier
around
to
that
cut
roundabout.
other
If they
people
speed
off.
around the roundabout, it's like, ooh.
They go,
One
damn
wheel.
roundabout, I'm gonna show them, and once they get
Exactly.
through it, it's,
And I have to say, for some people, it's confusing roundabouts. I'm not sure. Maybe it's
I
just-
don't like roundabouts,
You
but
know,
Yeah.
just,
Mm.
you
Well,
know,
Boston-
just
slow down.
just makes it a little
This
more
was an
confusing.
example of a potential opportunity to explore. But the idea is that we have these gateways. You know? They're also welcoming, you know, that might be kind of a nice thing from a.
We could
Tourism
actually
perspective.
borrow some of the headstones from the St. Stephen's, put them in the middle of the roundabout so people
Oh my
really get
gosh,
the
that'll
idea.
stop everything. I just remember one traffic light.
Oh,
way
yeah.
Back then.
Yeah,
Right?
I remember,
those
Me
were the
too.
days.
Yeah.
you remember zero.
yeah.
You remember zero.
Oh, well.
Okay, let's see, page 22.
You know, it's interesting. So McFarland, was it Barry? Was it you that we were talking about the two adjacent stop signs, the library and McFarland, and then it might make sense to add that here, because basically you have this weird we have like a weird stop sign relationship. And then you have these we have two roads, you have a stop sign at one of them, you got a stop sign coming this way, it's just,
Yes,
So the
specific.
oncoming traffic has the right of way to make a left-hand turn into
That's
McFarland.
that's
Yeah.
the specific
Oh, I've had
problem,
people
is it's
yell
the
at
only
me
place
like,
in the world
"You
where a
can't turn
left-hand turn has the right of way.
Yeah.
And also down at Burke Street, the same thing
Yeah.
exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Never do know
And
that.
we've had, past discussions to try and say, well, do we resolve it by making the Burke Street intersection a three-way stop? Taking the stop sign off of Forester
that's right here.
at
See, there's
southern
these two
end,
roads
you know,
actually.
as it comes into McFarland there, McFarland stays a stop sign. And so you don't have that stop anymore, there's no uncertainty. And then when you get down to Burt, everybody stops.
If the traffic coming off 17 were going 20 miles an hour, it wouldn't be a problem. But sitting at the stop sign at McFarland,
Sorry, wrong side.
trying to get
So it's
out
Forrester and McFarland?
onto
Is that-
Forester,
It's
could be an issue if
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does
You could
make
have,
it easier.
yeah, and you could have a backup even at, rush hour,
On McFarland.
on McFarland, yeah. I mean, if the stop sign was at
Campsite.
Burt,
It's called the campsite.
you would have probably a line of cars that would go beyond McFarland, which would then start blocking McFarland at any given time. So,
Farland and campsite.
Which is no different than Railroad Avenue and
Yeah.
Oakland.
yeah, that's
Yep.
true.
That's right.
If you don't leave a gap so people can make the left-hand turn, you screw up things terribly.
And I would also point that we don't need to do traffic engineering in the comprehensive.
Right.
Okay, good
We're
idea.
just highlighting trouble spots.
Yeah,
the obvious.
Yeah.
okay.
I live this.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
We're adding colors.
Yes.
Right.
Well, some of those were under the study the Alta study, weren't they? I mean,
Yeah, that's where this is
Right.
drawn from.
Right,
one by the old library and Buckley Center and that area.
so you're saying Monday morning traffic engineers?
Well, I think, like, we can add McFarland campsite and Forester, that
Yeah.
intersection
Yeah.
to this list, it'll be number 9. But, generally, it's sort of the principles of how these issues are going to be managed, because these are things that'll change and evolve over time. Just like roundabouts at one point were not the solution to all traffic problems. Have subsequently, it's
During my
become-
lifetime, I've seen them removed.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Replaced by lights, traffic
We
lights.
can do the jug handle. I'm just kidding.
yeah, that's
We want to do the jug handle.
famous South Jersey jug handle.
The Jersey jug handle.
I don't know that.
The Jersey
It's
jug
awful.
handle? We gotta get you to Jersey.
No, that's okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
A little longer.
Because you're not allowed to take left-hand turns, so you have to take a right and then you go and there's a
Oh,
light
oh.
and
You go through the intersection, take a right, come back through the intersection.
then waste so
Yeah.
much land.
God, it's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
One thing I've always wondered, why you come down by the village hall, and you can only make a right-hand turn, but when you're up by the Dunkin' Donuts and the beer place, you can make a left-hand turn.
Right,
So, and that's actually, to me, a worse spot to make a left-hand turn than it is down here.
you mean the coming out of the parking
Parking
lot?
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's just, I've seen a couple near misses. It just seemed like, why, if you can't make a left-hand turn here, why are you allowed to make a left turn? It's even closer to the intersection.
right, right.
So that's just something I've observed, and I wondered why, it seemed inconsistent.
Right. And then the people that make the jag onto,
Yeah.
onto Church Street.
Right.
Yeah, and that's where I think a comprehensive traffic study would come in very handy.
On top of this.
Yeah,
Well, we need a traffic engineer here, guys.
Yeah, we do.
That's the
We
bottom line.
we
You
do.
know one?
No, not today.
Actually, we're setting up a work session with the village board with 2 traffic engineers from DOT to kind of just air out some of these things about kind of find some best practices and, so I think that'll be interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, it'll be a work session, so anybody who wants to come, you're more than
That's good.
welcome.
Cool.
Wonder if we could get a student study sponsor us, Stevens or something,
Uh-huh, that would be interesting.
traffic engineering class.
Yeah. That would be really interesting.
What page are we on?
We're on page 24.
For page 24, under implement policies to reduce reliance upon fossil fuels, I think we should add mobility improvements. and mobility and transportation, like transit, shared yeah.
So which one,
So this one, because we're
okay.
reducing reliance upon fossil fuels,
Mhm.
and then mobility support, mobility improvements.
Mhm.
I think that is in alignment with what we were talking about earlier with like, the other mobility improvements.
Use the scooter on the sidewalks or in the road?
In the road, definitely, yeah, not allowed on the sidewalks.
Okay.
It's like a bicycle, kind of, have to obey all traffic laws.
Okay, so we're gonna add an example of improving mobility. Other comments, page 24, 25.
Well, the New York Stretch Building Code, I'm not familiar with it enough, but I'm not sure how much sense it makes. I mean, we have real studies that show us the benefits. I mean, it seems like a cost with a minimal return. Again, it's a good idea,
Yeah.
and I don't know enough about it. I'm not trying to dismiss it, but it seems like the return you're getting is very small for the cost. And does it really help, or does it hinder development or building homes or what have you?
Well, and also there is an issue that you can create this inequity between municipal entities. So for example, if the village was to take on this as part of their code or the code, but the town did not, then the developer looking at both
Yes.
places is going to say, well, listen, it's a lot less expensive
Right.
for me to build homes out yonder.
Sure.
So,
That makes sense.
yeah, and that's really an issue throughout New York State in terms of this particular code.
Okay.
So consider or evaluate adoption.
Right. And in a manner that maximizes energy conservation without unduly increasing construction costs. So it makes it clear that this has to be balanced.
So how about saying, consider adoption of regulatory measures such, to minimize energy consumption in new construction in a manner, and then say, i.e. New York Stretch Building Code and other, et cetera. So it doesn't ignore the fact that it exists and we should be looking at it, but it doesn't put it at the forefront.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if folks are okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, I really like that because you can adopt some aspects of it and not the whole thing.
Mhm.
So that makes better sense.
Okay, good. Onward. Let's go to page 25. I get the impression not everyone has done their homework.
Oh, why? Why do you think? Because we're reading.
Everybody's
Now.
speed reading.
I was just thinking of how beautiful the bridge looks by you.
Yeah.
So glad that was done.
So not hearing anything.
Well, I want to just make a mention on the promotion and the development or the conservation of local food systems. I was telling Carly before the meeting that I had this incredible interview from a fellow who is working on a program through the University of Albany. And they were interviewing myself, and they're going to be interviewing Mike Sweeten about the work that we've accomplished in terms of preserving agricultural lands and how the impact that that has had in terms of our food systems here, and the farmers market, which is, you know, really recognized as one of the best in the Hudson Valley, and, you know, just all that. And it was really exciting. I was talking to this woman for about an hour and a half, because it was like, you know, what her queries were about governance and how governance impacts those systems. And in reality, and I never really even thought of it, but we've had a tremendous impact over time. And hopefully we'll continue to do that, because, you know, that really does change the equation. And I still think that there's room for stronger, a stronger food system in the village. I mean, the farmer's market once a week is fine, but what I see are families that use CVS and use Sunoco and use
Yes.
these other, you know, places for buying groceries.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's really discouraging and disturbing, so.
Yes, it is definitely, I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that. I hear that a lot from our communities, especially the poor community, the Latino communities. Yeah, there is definitely a need. And most of them work in the migrant, and they work on the farms, and it's just still, I mean, I remember we had Grand Union at one point, so.
Right.
So how can we fix that? How can we expand that? How can we, you know, do exactly what you're saying?
Well, I think,
More than once a week farmer's market?
yeah, I think
Makes
what
that happen?
Tom, well, luckily there's others, you know, one in Greenwood Lake now, one in Florida, but you have to get there. So that's part of the problem. But, you know, and luckily we have a great food pantry that's, you know, that's pretty substantial and does do tremendous outreach.
Yeah.
But I think Tom, and I don't know if it's really in this document, but he was, Tom McKnight was talking about, boy, if the village could secure the property and a structure that could house something like that, you know, that would be more year-round, and or that was multifunctional, you know, not only just for food systems, but also for the arts. And so that just was very, very dreamy, but it sounded really incredible. And so I just throw that out.
If you could get a place for a welcome center that might have an accessory to it, you could do it.
We were
There's
also,
space.
I think there's also interest in doing a winter farmer's market if we can find if we can find a
location.
place for it.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was gonna start rattling off potential
Me too.
locations.
I was just thinking out loud about the makers market, similar to how we do that. Private organizations and civic groups are really good at doing things of this sort, so I definitely think we could put our heads together and
Find
come
a
up with a
spot.
solution, find a spot for a lot of general things.
Because it also could become, like, when we lived in Washington DC, they had Eastern Market, which was like this old structure. But then in the summer, the whole streets and everything around it, that's where the farmers market existed. So it became this like hub of, you know, inside was like cheeses and meats and all the things that kind of needed to be inside something. And then in the summer and spring, like all the vendors would sit up around it. So like it became, you know, unfortunately it caught on fire and they had to redo it. So it lost that like, that old feel, but it just had that old, you know, it existed for so long and it was simple. It was just a brick structure. It wasn't anything like super over the top, you know, but it served its function. But
There's something like that in Philadelphia
In DC,
and DC.
and it's very
The Philly
European.
marketplace
The
is
Phil-
awesome.
It's awesome, yeah.
So cool, yeah.
well,
Boston
do
has
we
something
have
like
any
that too.
buildings that we might use that way?
The old
Not
library.
available.
Not available, right?
There's some good spots.
There's
Yeah.
some
You know,
good
that could be
spots.
Annexed, et cetera,
Yeah.
but they're not available at the moment.
We have some churches that do a lot of amazing work. Obviously, the Ecumenical Pantry. But perhaps, it could be outdoors. It could be outdoors. It could be tent. It could be just
Right.
keep ourselves open to
Right.
those possibilities.
I was wondering about the gymnasium in Park Ave,
CVS.
like a Sunday.
Interesting.
Because, I mean, they're not having school on Sunday.
I wanna say it's 5,000
Gymnasium
square
is nice and
feet,
big.
which might be a little small, but that's,
Yeah, that's the thing.
that's not a.
Conversation.
Because it has parking too.
Of course, we cut into their sales.
Yeah, well, they did want to lease that. There was a Pyramid Cushman sign on that building for a long time, but, I guess, being
CVS,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
5,000 square feet that
plus
they're
or
not
minus,
using.
yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is.
That they don't use.
How do you
Really?
get to, yeah, I know there is, because there was the sign that said it, but I didn't know how you get entry to it.
Yeah, there's a door on the backside, but it is, I think it's down a level a little bit. I think it's like a sunken room, so to speak, so you'd have to figure out, I mean, it's not impossible. You
Hide
just
it well.
figure out how to ramp it. You take up some of the parking and delivery area, but not tremendous. It's all on the side.
I mean, you'd probably wanna do the whole face
Right.
area.
Right.
that-
Oh, and just put it in the
that's a-
front,
yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah.
new door, yeah, yeah. So, that's not a bad spot for something, but I think they're taking it off the market. They just could never make a decision. CVS is, too big to get out of their own way, probably.
But that is definitely an important piece of real estate in the village.
Oh, yeah.
Probably one of the most important in terms of its, I mean, so CVS is there now,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that they will be there forever either, as markets change.
Yeah, no.
And it's not owned by CVS, I don't believe,
No, it's private owned.
privately owned.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they have a long-term lease and,
I think they've, yeah,
as long as the lines are there, which they are.
Yeah.
I don't think they're, could be a long time.
yeah,
I think, finding a redevelopment spot, again, not taking away from Cedric, but a Mechanical Rubber is
definitely, yeah.
more of a direction. And/or annexing a close piece of land that makes sense. I don't know if there's anything off from McFarland, on the backside, so to speak, across from the library. I don't know what they're.
I think they've subdivided that into 4 lots,
Yeah.
part of it into
Yeah.
4 lots.
So,
Sure.
but that, it's gotta be real centralized, or as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Yeah.
There isn't much left. Even Forester, out of the 13 Forester, that lot's just too small to support, really a big enough operation,
Right.
So.
There's
it's
a
tight.
couple empty warehouse floors above Cafe
Oh,
La
that's-
Mode,
yeah.
but there's no outside entrance. You have to go in underneath where
The arch.
the arch.
But that could be redone, so
Yeah.
it would be a very nice entrance, and you'd need to put in an elevator
Yeah.
to allow
Yeah.
people access. But there's a good amount of room up there.
Yeah.
The only issue with that would be parking,
Yeah,
because there's no direct parking.
Right.
But being a village market, certainly can walk or take the bus, dial bus,
Or the rickshaw.
or a rickshaw.
So under goal C and C4 on page, it'll be on page 15, I can add a recommended action to promote the creation of facilities to support cultural activities, food systems, et cetera, just to reflect the conversation we just had.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to page 24, 25.
We got past 25, I think, right?
Yes. So now we're at the implementation schedule.
I had a question about C2. So I think, and I think this relates to, so year one, the stuff that goes in year one versus year 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And traffic calming, I think there's near term and longer term traffic calming. Like there's Like, there's some parts of the community that have an urgent need for us to take, like, some level of action to help reduce speeds and improve pedestrian safety.
Okay.
That I think maybe, like, we could have a two-part of the traffic calming. Like, one of them is like the long-term elements.
Okay.
Yeah. And then one is sort of the, I think this might be related to your undertake intersection it's a C2 goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's for pedestrian and bicycle traffic safety. But so I think it would be like explore near term, low impact, ways to accomplish that C2 goal.
Of traffic calming.
Yes. Yes.
There are some that are more important than others. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that I think there's some urgent, like, I think there's some stuff that we could do in a really near term way that we should be doing over the next year.
When you develop this zoning task force, I would hope that they're tasked with taking a more comprehensive look at all of our zoning, not just these items, because I think the zoning people themselves have a more detailed understanding of where glitches are for them, and therefore it would be better for them to have I don't wanna restrict anybody's hands on this.
Should we add an action in the immediate priority to stand up the CSC transportation and zoning task forces?
Sure.
Just because it's a prerequisite and it might take us time to do that,
Okay. So that's in the first year, I suppose.
Yeah, because we have responsibilities for them in the first year.
Okay.
Is the idea, Peter, that each one of the recommendations has one slot here?
But yeah, that's pretty much what I did.
I wonder if what Carly was saying about splitting that one recommendation, maybe we need to actually go back and make a short-term recommendation versus
Near and long term, yeah.
then you've got two recommendations, one to put into 1 year and one to put
In terms of the traffic calming.
farther out.
Yeah,
Okay.
like pedestrian, bicycle safety and traffic calming.
Well, maybe we just need to be more specific, because we already have another, go back to C2 and look, but there's in the 2 to 3 year section.
It's in the 2 to 3 year section.
We've also got undertake intersection improvement strategies in the 1 year section.
Right. But it's
Right.
not a recommended action, it's. Maybe it's about implementing near-term recommendations from Alta that, things that because you've got like we're gonna have the low-hanging fruit and the brainers and the no-brainers, And I'm assuming that these undertake intersection improvement strategies, because this isn't like a recommended, it's not one of the recommended actions, but it's something that falls under the Alta recommendations.
Right. Yeah, and the intent here is to really, this is sort of suggested. It's just a way of organizing, and that in the actual implementation, I think it can be much more granular, as they say, but this is just.
Well, I think the different groups need to set their own schedules, more than us set the schedules for them. This should be a suggestion,
Right.
but if the task force is hot and heavy on a certain thing, let them,
Yeah.
you know, they need to have a free hand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if they move faster, that's great. But I also really like the idea because we have a board of trustees that is given different liaison responsibilities. And I like the idea of like making sure, like that we
Giving
set our
them deadlines.
agenda, yeah, based on
Yeah.
this
I hear you.
roadmap, yeah.
I have some reservations about our ability to achieve the one-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 11 major activities out of the total of 20. The other 9, you know, it's pretty simple stuff, but, you know, we're talking about studies and physical improvements and changes, and to get that done in a year,
It's ambitious.
That's the
Yeah.
word I was
it's,
thinking of.
you say ambitious, I will say impossible.
Maybe a lot of it is like initiate
Yeah, I
or
think it's-
schedule.
Well,
Yeah.
Those
you know,
words.
Take the word
maybe it's,
undertake out.
maybe the first one is within 2 years, and the second one is, you know,
Oh, to-
within 2 to 4 years,
to
and
back
the
out.
others 5
Okay.
to 6
Yeah.
years, something like that.
Okay, sure, we could do that. I mean, that's a function of
Because I think,
the actual.
you know, just
I mean,
just looking at it, it's daunting.
Yeah,
You know, when you think of it too, when you kind of divvy up the year, I mean, okay, we get the comprehensive plan in place, and then we start making these different committees, these task forces. Well, that's going to take some time unto itself. So suddenly it's, you know, your first quarter is almost done.
Standing up that's why I was saying this, standing up the task forces is actually a major undertaking.
Yeah.
You want to switch the word undertake then? To recommend,
Or
to.
initiate.
well,
Initiate, yeah.
but you know, the idea of changing the time frame, I think might be, you know, like from rather than saying first year to, you
First
know,
2 years.
First 2 years. I think that,
First 5 years now. Who says 5?
Yeah.
No,
You have
no.
to plan, you know, you have to plan each of these like, for example, the master plan committee for the Memorial Park, that, you know, we had to have a lot of conversations about what that would be and what kind of representation we needed, and then we have to reach out to all the organizations, and then you gotta wait for them to come back with their nominations, and then we have to look for gaps, and then, you know, so that in and of itself is like a multiple month process.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you want to be thorough.
Inclusive.
and inclusive.
Infrastructure planning could also be contingent upon funding. You might get some funding coming in through the most recently passed infrastructure bill. So
That's true.
that might move that up possibly.
Yeah, it absolutely could, yeah.
Don't hold that.
Yeah, it won't move it up, but it will, I do think that I think we should use this to schedule applications, right? Like to map out what we apply for with the CFA, you know, and what we put in the hopper, and developing partnerships in advance, and.
Yeah, but again, if we lumped a bunch of stuff together to go to a CFA application, well, that's not gonna get submitted until next July, not
Right.
this July, next July.
Right.
And it's not gonna get awarded until December, and by the time we get, you know, consultants and whatever else, we need to do, you know, it's gonna be, you know, the year's gonna be gone, or even the 2 years
Yeah.
possibly gonna be gone before we get very far, but.
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to point that out, but at the same time, you know, as long as we're moving forward on
Right.
these things and, you know, making progress, then, you know, if we do it in 2.5 years or 3 years, something we thought we'd wanna do in 2, we've done it, but it took a little longer.
We should caveat this. So, you know,
So
subject to funding, yeah, no, I'm sorry, just, but subject to funding availability and,
the other thing, to sort of close the loop, is this is something that should be reviewed at the annual meeting of the boards. The boards that we, you know, that's one of the recommendations, is that the boards come together. It just seems to me then just to sort of say, all right, where are we with this? And, you know, do we keep going, or does something get bumped up to the front now?
Wouldn't you issue progress reports as well? I mean, you know, I think that would be important once the plan is in session.
Absolutely.
Just how we're progressing. Barry pointed out there are things that'll take more time, but at least the public is saying, what are you doing with it, you know, from that point of view, so I think that'll be important.
I also think that the village board should do a working session on this and figure out which liaisons need to,
Interact with
yeah,
Yeah.
to make sure that somebody is truly responsible for each of these and, you know.
Peter, in the first year plan, Q2, it's 3 from the end. It talks about the regulation of short-term rentals. So at this point in time, we do not have any regulation regarding short-term rentals.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that needs to be, I think, just so that somebody reading it doesn't
Right.
walk away with the impression that there's a document there and they're gonna look for it and they're gonna find it. They spend time not finding it.
Yeah, and the original recommendation has been revised, but this didn't get revised, so yeah, I'll go through and make sure they're consistent.
I was gonna say, it's a contrast, having such specific recommendations and objective recommendations in this document to the previous comprehensive master plan. And it's a great roadmap, but it would be discouraging to get to the end of it and having accomplished half of it, but with a longer time horizon and missing some things perhaps, that it wasn't seen as, that it might be seen as a failure.
Yeah, I doubt it, you know, I think sticking with it is that's how you win the game.
Yeah.
Is the communities where 3 years from now they're going, didn't we do a master plan 3 years ago? You know, that's where the problem is the communities that take it and run with it, even if it's 6 years and they're still working on it, you know, that makes a big, I mean, one of my favorite examples is just to the south of New Paltz is the town of Gardner. And they took their comprehensive plan, it was done in 2004, and they just updated it, but, you know, you can go through the community, just physically looking at things and check things off
Yeah.
if they did, so.
A lot of the stuff in the year one is related to engagement, which I think can be done.
Yes,
I think
those
the
9 items
zoning, yeah, I think the zoning bits probably need to be bumped to,
Well, I think if we do the whole thing, 2 years.
okay, I know, yeah, and then
Meetings,
the
2
plan,
years.
I'm thinking about like actual, what we're gonna be able to do.
Some of it we can do in 6 months,
Yeah.
3 months even.
Some of it we're already working on, which
Yeah.
is great,
Checklist?
yeah.
So I'm ready to take this and put together a final draft.
Is there a way we can, in advance, sort of have a rubric for scoring ourselves?
I think that's something we should do. Like, I really think after, I mean, we might not have it in the comp plan, but I agree. I think we need to, if this goes in here, then we need to have a champion assigned for everything and,
I think also, and again, this is something really that your esteemed consultant can't do, is, you know, what are the big 5 things that you want to get done in this plan? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be included in the plan, but, you know, at a subsequent meeting, say, all right, these are the things that we really are gonna push, because, you know the community and what it needs.
I wonder if part of that comes out of the community, of the launch and the feedback that we get from the final document.
Because I think that will be ultimately more useful than the matrix that I've got here. I mean, I think that's sort of the start, but then ultimately to say, all right, what are the 5 critical things, the 3 critical things that we need to address first? And actually then, once they're done, all right, what's next? And you can refer to the matrix to make those decisions.
and we can track, I think we can track remember the little thing that I suggested on the website where it's like, what's happening now?
Yeah.
What have we done? What
Yeah,
is in the
which
works?
I think is a great-
Or what, what's
Yeah.
coming? We could break this out into that.
That's a progress report.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that's what I think people look for, the people that are interested are
Mhm.
looking for that.
Yeah.
But if we find that we've been too ambitious, it would be useful to have a sense of priority
Mhm.
and to be able to focus on the things that are most important.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think the zoning stuff, like that's gonna take more time than, and, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that is being worked on now, just in, is the Certified Local Government Program. Jack, myself, and Corey Bachman have been focusing on developing it. And it would change, in many cases, the way our architectural review board is structured, and it will give them a lot more weight in terms of, how things are administered. A much more structured way of how things are administered. And also, in part, developing our own historic, historic district. We have a state and federally recognized one, but there are unique buildings throughout the community that we would want to protect and preserve. And right now, there is no catalog of any of that, and so part of that the CLG would probably take that on.
Or with the landmarks preservation local law that we're working on.
Right. So I don't, I just want to keep it contemporary to this document. And do you want us to send you any of that information? Would that help?
Yeah, and it just seems to me that at least they're under the quality of place recommendations, the idea of completing that process should be a recommendation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
Can we just, going back to Q3, can we just make it consistent with what we kind of updated on the goal from page 14? Just so it can be a little bit more clear if we need to be on this page.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'll do that, because really what I did to create
I
the
know.
matrix is copied and pasted the recommended actions.
Yeah.
So they need to be changed as they were changed in the document.
Yeah.
I'm thinking perhaps, just a suggestion, but village admin, maybe creating subcommittees instead of outreach more inclusive. So outreach, yes, but including as well, like you did me. So,
It does
just to
seem,
keep that in consideration.
like, are you thinking that we need maybe just like we have a task force for transportation and
Correct.
CSC, that we should have one for outreach?
Yeah, or maybe not task force necessarily, but subcommittee perhaps. Just adding the word, adding the language, instead of outreach, have inclusion, because it's also, don't forget LGBTQ as well.
Like an
so-
inclusion subcommittee?
Yeah, I don't know.
I was
Figure
thinking
it out,
that,
but you know what I
because,
mean, like bring it in instead of.
yeah.
All right,
Find out who they are.
we can do that.
Yeah,
Add
just
a
because it'll be
task force for
consistent with the
inclusion.
goal.
Okay.
Maybe you could do that with a lot of these other things, instead of just generally zoning task force. Do you need a subcommittee for that? Do you need a liaison for that? Do you need,
Well, that'll be
Maybe-
the implementation group can deal with.
there's another group?
Well,
Yeah.
Always another group.
There's always another group.
Half the village residents are going to be,
yeah.
But that's as it should be.
I know, I would love
Living
it.
document. Because I think the level at where we have it now is suggestive, and I don't think we need to get, it may end up getting that granular, but I don't think we need to get there yet. But the idea of the inclusion task force, I think is,
Yeah,
that's important.
definitely.
I do like the idea of adding, like, the recommended action of kind of evaluating and standing up subgroups and committees needed to implement the plan.
As a step.
Yeah, as we
first
talked
step.
about it a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
just making sure that
Yeah,
it's
no,
in there. Yeah.
That will be it.
I'm excited about this.
Good.
We see.
Yeah, no, it's good. There's times where people aren't. It's like,
I'm sure you made quite a few.
can I go home now? So I think what we need to do then is set the next meeting, where the idea would be, I would have the final draft ready. And we just sort of, okay, let's do that, and then maybe set a public meeting for it.
Yeah.
Music, dancing, somewhere?
That, sure.
Thank you for putting all this color. I just love the color part.
So the July, the week of the 25th,
I could only do Monday, I'm away the rest of the week.
There's no village board
Likewise.
meeting on the 25th.
okay.
Monday's open.
So you want, let's.
Set me off on vacation on the right way.
Yeah, really? Take you some
This
stuff to
may not
read.
have water in it.
You'll appreciate your vacation even more after spending it with us.
Yeah, that's right, that's
Don't
right.
forget to be inclusive on that.
Yeah. Margaritas for everybody.
The 25th
If you're
of
going to a
July.
beach, we'll give you stuff to ponder.
Oh, I am.
Do we need to invite comment from the gentleman in the audience?
Sure. Do you want to make any comments to our committee?
So,
Mr.
let me introduce myself, Mayor, in case you don't recall.
What-
My name is Richard Purcell. I presently live in Warwick Grove. My wife and I have been there 7 years. We love the place. I serve on the planning board now. I'm an alternate member. I'm not a big shot, but I'm a guy who, people come to me for some reason. I can't explain it, but they do, and they want to ask me questions. I've had experience as a councilman in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey, where I resided for the better part of 45 years. The purpose in coming here tonight, Mayor, aside from apologizing for coming in like this, I realize I'm unannounced, and I also realize that I've interrupted you, so I apologize.
No, it's a public meeting. This is a work session.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know whether you were the village council or a zoning board or what.
You know what this is? I'll explain it just quickly.
Sure.
We are revisiting our comprehensive master
I
plan
understand, sir.
for the community.
Yes.
So that's what we've been meeting for almost 2 years.
Year and a half, let's say.
Yeah.
Mayor, if I may
Well, the
say.
fall
Yes.
will be 2
I
years.
think
Yeah.
you're really
Started in
well
2020.
coordinated here. You're getting input from everyone.
Mhm.
And it's all valuable and germane to what we're dealing with here in Orange County, actually. Not only Warwick, but it's all over. Now, quickly, Mayor, I just wanted to tell you that as a member of the planning board, I'm a relatively new member. It'll be 2 years in September when I was appointed. But Orange County Municipal Planning Federation had a program that was sponsored, or I should say moderated by Alan Sorensen. And in that, they were talking about a lot of relevant data that you're discussing tonight. My family, and Mr. Cheney knows this, my family was involved with sanitation, engineering sanitation. The relevance that we have with this now is our sewage treatment plant. A lot of folks are coming to me and they're saying, Purcell, what's happening? I said, I honestly don't know. But I know what pre-inflation costs are as opposed, Mayor, to post-inflation costs, which we will all be impacted by this. We know this. I was hoping that maybe Mr. McKnight might have been here tonight. I was thinking this would be a council meeting tonight, or a trustee meeting.
Yeah.
But if it's not appropriate for me to get that breakdown tonight, perhaps I could meet with Mr. McKnight. I'd like to walk through that building if I may.
Of course,
I know
yes.
something about
Right.
it. I was about that big when my father would bring me into the office and explain things to me. So that was 60 years ago. I don't know if I'm relevant anymore, quite frankly. But I know some of the questions that have to be asked.
Sure.
You folks have a lot on your plate right now. We're all really getting knocked around pretty good. But if you could arrange that for me, Mayor, I
Sure.
don't expect it tonight. I was hoping I could get some kind of a breakdown with the cost. The people in Warwick Grove are frightened to death about assessments.
Of course, yes, I understand.
I'm 78 years old, and it's concerning.
Yeah.
But it's not something that we can't deal with. But we're seeing an influx and outflux of folks, I think primarily due to cost. We know these things. This is not, we're not talking rocket science here. It's basic thinking, in my opinion. But I'm proud of what you're doing. I know, of course, Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Cheney. The rest of you folks, I recognize some of you, but I don't know you. But, gosh, if I could get somebody to call me back, maybe McKnight.
Yes, if you could give me your contact information.
I
Rich.
shall, Mayor.
And,
I shall do
and
that.
before we leave tonight.
I've got it.
Okay,
Barry's got it.
okay,
Look, I didn't mean to interrupt anything.
not at all.
I appreciate all that you folks are doing. I'll tell you the truth, I have some pretty good vibes here. I'm serious. I've sat on a lot of boards.
Yeah.
Trust me. And I know what it's like to go into a meeting and have people who are working with you, not against you. I sensed no adverse reactions here from anyone, all positive. So that's my input. I'll sign in, Mayor, so you don't have me arrested. Is that fair?
That's fair, that's
But I
fine.
appreciate your listening.
I'm really glad to see you here tonight. We've been meeting month after month.
Yes.
And it's definitely advertised that we're meeting, but very few people do come out. It's an odd night or something, so, but it's great. And please report back
I shall, sir. I shall.
to, the people that you know about this activity that's been
Of
going
course.
on.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
listen, I'm impressed, and as I said before, I tell it like it is. A lot of folks don't appreciate and they don't see behind the doors.
Right,
They think they're seeing everything.
Right.
They read the advertiser and they know everything. But this is the groundwork. This is the trenches right here. You're taking time away from your families. I know Mr. Cheney spends hours and hours and hours with his different responsibilities here in Orange County. It's really incredible. But I'll get out of your way, folks.
okay.
And Barry
You're
will be
not,
in touch
you're
with
not
me,
in our
I'm
way.
sure.
And-
Mr. Kennedy, say hello to you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming.
Oh, you're all very effective folks. Very good. I'll get out of your way. They call me Tex. Because I wear cowboy stuff. I'm a little different. You can imagine. Today's date, sir, is July.
28th.
28th, yeah.
28th.
My daughter turned 10 today.
Oh, my goodness.
Double digits,
Thanks,
Double
folks.
digits.
Thank you, Rich.
We'll see you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're on for the 25th.
Hey, Rich, do you have your phone? Maybe you want to take a picture of that scooter and bring it over to Warwick Grove. Show people
Yes.
how to get around this town.
Oh, nice. I left my phone home, sir, because
Oh.
I didn't want to.
I'll take a photo and text it to you. Thanks.
Next to Mr. Kennedy and the mayor.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work. Proud of you.
You're already making an impact.
I saw another one.
In 2 seconds,
I've had
I
it
went
for a
from
couple-
the best to the third best.
That's the way it is all the time.
So do we need to turn off the,
Yes, at this point, I guess the meeting's concluded and
All right.
adjourned, and
all right.
you've got the instructions for how to turn it off.
I do. It says something about pressing a button. Press the record and stream button on the recorder again.
Yes,
They will go from solid red to blinking to white.
I don't remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I know, I was like, oh.
Tomorrow's crazy for me anyway,
No,
so.
and it is for me.
So I
the
just
rest of the
dropped
week, really.
So-
edits into the,
Flying in from Florida.
Oh, okay.
into a
Never
Google
seen
Today.
Doc.
I've never
Okay.
seen Warwick.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'll
Oh,
send
you've
it.
got a
And
lot
send
on
it
your
to
plate.
Fairweather
So maybe
Consult
next week we can,
@gmail.com.
I'll reach out to
Okay.
Corey, or if you want to.
And I didn't replicate the comments that I had sent previously,
With Mike Sweeten?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see why not at this
so I
point.
left it
Figure
at.
out what his,
Yeah.
What its vibe is, yeah.
yeah,
Night,
and
Judy.
and what dates, and then talk to you
Yeah.
about
All right, so-
a mutual good date.